$120,000 worth of debt paid off in 17 months. How they did it and how you can too. Hello, and welcome to the My Father Said podcast, where we discuss all things faith, finance, and family. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan. I'm both a father and a son.
Hey, and I'm Robert. I am Ryan's father, and I too myself am someone's son.
And today we are joined by some longtime listeners of the My Father Said podcast, Matthew and Jessica Spears. Guys, thank you so much for being with us. We're happy.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So this is a podcast we've been wanting to do, I don't know, since we started this podcast, and it is really just an interview of Matthew and Jessica Spears to learn about their story. Just 1,000-foot view. We've known them for a few years now. They were able to pay off over $120,000 worth of debt over the course of 17 months. And so we just want to talk with them and tell their story. So with that, let's get to it.
Good deal. So I'm curious when it comes to people getting out of debt, because basically on the spiritual side of what we do here at our company, we know that Scripture tells us that the person who is in debt becomes slave to the lender. And I'm curious, if your story is like a lot of other people's, what did you do, or what were the things that you found that you have done that put you in a position to where you had that level of debt at your age? How did you get there? Jesse, you want to take this?
Yeah. So, thank you for having us on the podcast. I'd say that I am the sole reason for this debt. And
Matthew just threw you under the bus.
Yeah. So I am literally the sole reason for this debt, but I can say that with confidence. I had student loans from both undergrad. So we both went to a private school. So private schools are very expensive. Yeah. And then I went on to get my master's, which was not on scholarship. So with that, a bunch of student loans came about, as well as I had a car payment and medical bills that I just let pile up. And that kind of comes from my background a little bit. I grew up in a home that was not very financially educated. And so I've seen my parents let medical bills pile up. So I just thought that was like, oh, well, I'll just let them pile up and I'll just pay them later. But, with, growing up and understanding, the world of finances and how it's supposed to be, I knew that wasn't right. And so thankfully I met my husband who was very good with finances. Kind of helped me out in that area. So we got it together very quickly.
So let me see if I can rephrase everything you just said. I presented the question, how did you find yourself in this position? And Matt essentially said, I married her.
Man.
Kind of. Well, and I'll say the two, partially, yes. But I also have my own debt a little bit, right? That I came into the marriage that I kind of tackled beforehand. It wasn't $120,000. I was probably around 10 or 12,000 or so. But I knew I was going to come into that situation when we got married. But to her point, right, when you had student loans from undergrad and grad school, our private school is expensive. I think right now it's like $37,000 a year. So with that, and the cost of education is rising as we speak, right? So that's something that kind of hindered us the most as far as coming to the financial situation. But we knew when we got married, like, okay, I talked about it, said, hey, we're going to tackle this thing. Just because, like the Bible says, we talked about it, right? The borrower is slave to the lender. Mm-hmm. So understanding that, hey, I want to be free in my marriage, free in my lifestyle, free in my decision-making, and having that decision as a couple was really the big step forward. But
Good deal. So Jessica, you made a comment a while ago. I just want to touch on just for a moment. You said you observed your parents. Mm-hmm. Did you and your parents, or did your parents ever have financial discussions or lessons with you and your siblings coming up, or you just observed and just learned what you learned from that?
Mm. So a lot of observing for sure. But the conversations that we may have had have, was just as simply, save your money, or every time you get paid, save a certain amount of money from your paycheck. So those were like the minimal, but like I said, from observance, I just saw what they did and then copied it. And so, it may not have been the healthiest. But that's all I ever knew. But once learning like, hey, that was not right, or, just the basic conversations of, how to invest, or, RIA, or anything of that nature that is a little bit more on the technical side of the financial, aspect, I really, really wasn't taught that. So I'm very fortunate to know that now. But growing up, that was not in my lifestyle.
Okay. I'm going to ask another question here. I'm going to ask you this one.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to ask Matt, because he's already thrown you under the bus.
Did.
And he's probably digging a hole, and I don't want to help him dig it any deeper. So how long have the two of you been married?
Ooh, okay. We've been married since 2020, so that's almost 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the financial situation you found yourself in at the beginning of your marriage, did it cause any stress or tension in the family?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, well, yes, I would say. My family, they love to go on trips. They love to go out to eat. And that's just something that we do. We love to celebrate each other. And so when getting out of debt, a lot of the things had to be cut out because, like, I hate this word, but we had to sacrifice. And so I literally had to sacrifice going out to eat with them, or just like putting myself on a budget. That was a sacrifice in itself because a budget was unheard of. So they truly didn't understand what we were going through. But in the end, once they figured out like, oh, they're getting out of debt, they've seen what we have done, and they're like, oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know, that was possible. But during the process, of course, they were very, very confused.
So you said that they didn't understand at first when you guys said, hey, we're going to make these sacrifices. Obviously, it took you guys 17 months to pay everything off. So over the course of that 17 months, how did y'all's families react? How did that go over? Did they become more supportive? Did it get worse? Like, just walk us through the family aspect of that.
So I can at least answer from my side of the family, right? So my grandfather, who's 96 now, he was all for it because he's from the generation of, why do you have so much debt? Pay it off. But then a lot of the younger people, that's a phrase, they were like, oh, why are you paying it off? Right? What's the point? Everybody has debt, right? And when I started having those conversations, I said, okay, they still love me, right? But I can't really say as much as what I want to say in this moment because they're not doing the same thing they're doing, right? So I'm a person of energy, right? So if I speak something into my existence, right, and try to speak about how I'm making a change in my life, I can sense you're not on that same path, I still love you, right? But I can't say as much as I want because it may hinder my growth and my mentality and my focus. Right? Depending on much off in that amount of time, there's a lot of focus.
Yeah.
And any distraction was like, I can't really feed this right now. So from my side of the family, at least, it was, hey, I love you, but it was more like a why. Why do you want to do that? Right? And I think for her family, my interaction with her family, my in-laws, was at the time, like I said, for she talked about it was so much used to trips. I've been spending money and having a good time. Making that sacrifice was almost like, again, why are you doing this? Like, what's the purpose? Everybody has it, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody else is doing what you guys are doing. Why are you guys trying to be, I won't say different, but you're basically taking it out to tradition, right? Oh, yeah. We used to traveling. We used to go on trips. We used to go on these different vacations. Why are you guys breaking? So for me, it was almost like, hey, trust what he spoke to you. Trust what God spoke to you. Continue on this path and just suck it up and explain it later. Right? Do it now, explain it later.
Good deal. So for a lot of the people that we work with who follow our guidance, we talk to them and we share with them the strategies that we would use to manage their monies appropriately. And that includes not only the investing side, but the lifestyle side. And of course, that's what we're discussing today is the lifestyle side. Somewhere along the way, something had to happen inside your household or in a conversation with the two of you that was the trigger point. Whenever the two of you said, you know what, we're not going to live like this. We're going to do something different. Can you share with us what that was, what that moment was, or how you got to that place to where you made that decision to say, not anymore?
Yeah. You want to take this one?
Go ahead.
Okay. So in my family background, right, I think I've told you before, divorce is strong. Mom and dad got divorced. My uncle and aunt got a divorce originally. My grandfather and grandmother got a divorce, right? And what I've seen is, it's not the sole reason why, but part of it was financial problems, right? Especially with my grandfather and grandmother, part of that, because it could be some abuse or some things outside of it as well, right? But I saw the financial part was a part of it as well. So try to start my marriage off on a good footing and say, hey, let's take that factor out, right? So that we have a substantial and a healthy marriage. So that's part of the reason why I was like, hey, I've seen this trickle path in the past, right? I've seen this whole thing continue to happen in my family tree. It stops now, right, with us. So that's why I said, okay, this is a problem, $120,000. Let's take it off the table because I don't want anything causing any friction for us in our marriage. Let's focus now just on being good parents, being good husband and wives, and be a good steward in this community, right? So that was really the focus of me. It's like, hey, I saw this path and this almost like a chain, right? In our generation, I said, okay, it stops with us. Let's change it now.
So you said to Jessica, in essence, hey, honey, I love you. Go to your room, stay in your room. We're not taking any trips. You come out when I tell you to, and that'll be where we're at.
Yeah, so...
Is that how it went?
No. It was, okay, so I had to take a strategic approach. So I know she's used to traveling. My family really didn't travel that much, right? So I was on this end, she was all the way on the other side, opposite side, right? She was going on trips and I was doing nothing. So I had to say, okay, cool. If it was up to me, I could pay it off all tomorrow. But not be tomorrow, like as fast as I wanted to. 17 months, we probably could have paid it off faster. But we did do some small trips in there, some small little celebrations. But I knew I couldn't go to the extreme. So I said, hey, we'll enjoy life, but within our means, while still not taking away from our long-term plan.
So he did let you go outside.
A little bit.
Yeah, he let me go outside. I wasn't going to be able to live if I didn't.
I just want to I want our listeners, if they see Matt out on the street somewhere, I don't want them to go, that's that guy.
See,
He deprived his wife this entire time.
That poor girl.
Yeah.
so that not to insinuate that you guys weren't on the same page ever, but that is a question that comes up, or maybe not a question, but when we recommend paying off debt, opposition comes up.
Yep.
Hey, my husband's not on the same page, my wife's not on the same page. During 17 months, was there ever a point where you guys weren't on the same page, or was it, hey, we're making this decision and it's going to suck, but we're going to do it?
Yeah, often.
Yeah, there's plenty of times where we were not on the same page because we had such different backgrounds, So he mentioned that his parents are divorced and mine aren't. So a lot of the things that my parents did together was go out to eat. And so I just thought that was normal. So we need to go out to eat, And so...
Makes sense.
Are you listening, Matt?
Take her out to eat.
Now we can.
Yeah. So a lot of those things that happen when you're just like, no, we're not going out to eat. We're cooking at home. And that just kind of like, oh my God, like, it did come to, oh my gosh, like this is not what I signed up for, or, just a lot of like, just anger that kind of led to, Jesus Christ, like, is this ever going to end? And, we did do, I'm not afraid to say we did do marriage counseling. We still go to marriage counseling to this day. And, our therapist has worked through us overcoming our differences and how to understand that, and even finances. We just had a financial discussion last Saturday about it because of how, different our mindset is. He's a little bit more strict and I'm a little bit, we know that I am the more free-willed person. Let's just do it. God will work it out, type of thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're looking at Robert Templeton, and you're looking at Linda Templeton. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he's like, no, absolutely no. So that's where most of our challenges come from. And a lot of our, I would say arguments, but disagreements come from is that I'm more of the free-willed person. I'm like, you only live once, let's do it. And he's like, well, let's do it whenever we got the money.
Correct.
So you're actually keeping the happy in the marriage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's keeping the stuffy in the marriage.
1,000%. I'll admit that. 1,000%. Yes.
I'm there.
1,000%.
So in those situations where you guys weren't on the same page, or there was things we weren't willing to compromise and just butt heads and stuff, you still made it work.
Yeah.
How?
Which is by the grace of God. We always said, what's the vision?
Right. What does a vision we want for our family? Right. So whenever we go up to see our maker, right, what does a spirit household want to be remembered for? Right? So we'll be caring, giving, loving, and unselfish, right? And that was the vision. So we said, okay, cool, that's the vision. There needs to be some actionable steps to accomplish that vision, right? And I think that vision really helped us keep on the path. Like, hey, yeah, we could go to Barbados. Yeah, we could go to Myrtle Beach, or we could go to Florida or Miami. But does that align with our vision, right? And sometimes it's cool to have those entertainment and fun things, as long as it doesn't take you away too much from your vision, right? So I think that vision, and also being able to be unselfish, like, hey, Matt, it can't be all your way. Sometimes you have to say no to yes, what Jessica wants. Yes, it can't be all your way, Jessica. Sometimes you and Matt wants, right? It's called compromise. So I don't think did you say compromise? You was talking?
Yeah, it's
Compromise. I think when you're married, let's legit, like, what marriage really is compromise. It can't be all your way. If it's all your way, the household kind of just is like, it's either going to be stuff for your type for me, or it's all games and fun and celebrations for Jessica, right? So there's a balance to both. But I think the vision is what kind of kept us there. That vision. That vision.
Awesome. All right. So we get on the same page. We decide, hey, we're not going to live like this anymore. What was the first step, or maybe the first couple of steps that you guys took in getting this 120,000 knocked out?
I think we went to Financial Peace University together.
Oh, good. Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. We went to financial. So and if there's anybody listening, right, sometimes it takes somebody that's not in your relationship to kind of say the same thing, and it just clicks. I don't want to say you said the same thing, kind of like closely aligned. But I think Financial Peace put us on the same game plan, because he was saying the same exact thing I was preaching and saying over and over again. But there was other folks doing it with us, right? Trying to do the same steps, trying to do the same journey. And I think with that process, it kind of ignited the fire. So, okay, cool. Maybe I am thinking about finances wrong. Right. Maybe I was raised with the wrong mentality, because folks are telling me, if you do these steps, then you be debt free. And I think we started to see traction, right? Especially with the debt snowball. Right? You see traction with the debt snowball. So I think seeing those movements and that traction and things happening, it started to make our process a little bit easier.
Let me ask you to do this.
Yeah.
For our followers who may have never, ever heard of Financial Peace, may not even know it. I don't know who they would be. Never heard of Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
But primarily the debt snowball.
Yep.
Explain that to our listeners, what that is, for the ones who may have never heard that.
Yeah. So the debt snowball basically is taking your debts from smallest to largest, right, and paying them off from smallest to largest. So if you have, let's say, a credit card bill for $500, and then I don't know, a car payment for $1,000, right? You pay the credit card off first, and then the car next, and then you go next to student loans if it's $20,000, and then you go maybe to like your mortgage after that. But that's not really an debt snowball, right? Because that's asset really when it comes to the home. But financial, right? All your financials, you lay them out across the board on the table, from smallest to largest. Let's pay them off in order from the amounts from your smallest to largest. That's the snowball.
And then you're adding the payment that you just paid off
Next one.
to the next payment.
That's cool.
So that car payment,
Yep.
instead of being $1,000, is now $1,500.
Right.
That's cool. Good deal. Good deals.
Cool. So, talking about Dave Ramsey and the debt snowball and FPU and stuff like that, one of the big proponents that Dave Ramsey has is always, a written budget.
Yeah.
Did you guys do a budget? And if so, how successful was it?
You want to take that one?
Yeah. So we actually use his app. It's called Every Dollar.
Yeah.
And you can download it on your smartphone. And so when we used that, it really helped us just map out what we needed to spend each month. And it was very helpful to us. Now, I would say it was a challenge for me because I didn't mention that I didn't grow up with a budget. And so he was very adamant about stick to the budget, stick to the plan. This is how we're going to get out of debt. It did take me a while for me to remember to even log what I was spending or anything of that nature, because everything that we started using was cash. So once I ran out of cash, I was like, well, what's next? It was like, well, that's it for your budget. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh my, Linda, are you hearing this? Did you hear what Jessica just said? No cash? No more money? Oh my gosh.
So that was a challenge for me, I was like struggling a bit. And so to this day, I'm not perfect. I still forget to put things in the budget, but it's baby steps. At least we have the budget. We still have the app. We're still using it each month. It's just that I just need to remember. I specifically need to remember to just put stuff in the budget. Yeah.
I want to take you back to that snowball for a second. So following that plan, when you paid off your first debt, did you get a sense of euphoria, or did both of you get it, or did one of you get it, or how did that work?
We got it more.
I think I got it more because I went through it the first time myself. Right. So I was like, okay, I see this traction. I almost text her, I was like, hey, this is awesome. She's like, okay. Like, you don't see the excitement. Like, just paid off her first day. She's like, I still got $120,000.
You still got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, just, you'll see the momentum coming. But I think I was excited because I went through it the first time.
So, Jessica, when did you start catching the fever in the debt snowball?
I'm gonna be honest with you, until we were done. I'm serious. Like, until we were done, that's when I was like, oh, I don't have to live like this anymore. Or
That's
I don't
awesome.
Have to, skimp out on family dinners, or I don't have to skimp out on family trips. I think that's when I actually was like, okay, I can breathe again, So honestly, it wasn't until the end where I felt like I was free.
That's good. That's good. That's, you were getting the euphoria all along. You got it there at the end, but you know what? You got $120,000 behind you. So, there you go. So,
Good thing you did.
cool. So, were there any, if you had to put your finger on maybe one or two things, what would you say were the biggest challenges you guys faced during that 17-month period?
Yep. Date night.
Okay.
Especially, I think it's easy when you're trying to be romantic as the man in a marriage, right? It's easy to say, okay, let's go get something to eat. Let's go watch this movie, or let's go do something that requires money. Right? Now I have to be more creative because I don't have but so much for date night. So there's not much Netflix I can watch. There's not much Hulu I can watch. There's not much, I'm a LeBron James fan, so there's not much LeBron James playing in the summertime, right? So now I have to be creative about how do I keep that fire in my marriage while still trying to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
And I'd say number two is probably, like I said, is just realizing that you're thinking the exact opposite than your partner is. So like I said, for me, I'm known for like starting something and just stopping it immediately, right? I can go and spend $1,000 tomorrow, and then next month I spend nothing, right? So I work in extremes. But I notice my wife she's not that way, right? It takes that slow movement to say, okay, let's take off. Instead of your budget being $100 last month, that was 90. Now it's 85. Now it's 80. Now it's 50. And by the time you get December, it's like $25. So I'd say taking that approach of saying, hey, yes, it's still the same result, right? But don't go to that extreme because she's going to deal with it differently than you will. She's going to get trauma. I'm going to get excited, right? And I don't want that trauma to be after, because again, the money is going to be gone, but what's your relationship? Where is that at after you pay off the debt, right? So that's the part I would say those two for sure.
Jessica, what about for you?
Yeah. Okay, so just a fun fact: we got married in 2020, December 2020. Actually, December 30th. Actually 31st. Sorry, 31st, and then January we took off.
Yeah.
And then February, that's when we started getting out of debt. So when you think about newlyweds, they're in that honeymoon phase and they're very close knit to each other. And that just did not happen because it was more so of, let's go. You know, it was like work. And I'm like, what is happening? You know? Like, why are we, what is happening? Like, we can't do nothing. Like, we can't go out to eat, or we can't do date nights.
Who did I marry?
Yeah, it was very strange to me. So that was definitely a challenge for me, as well as, you know, like he said, his input or his outlook on what we should do and my outlook were two different things. So, you know, budgeting $25 for a sanity fund, I'm like, well, what? I can't even do my hair.
And pick up on that. She said sanity fund. So we don't have, for my wife, we both have sanity funds.
Sanity?
Sanity.
Yeah, keep the sanity. Yeah.
So I knew, and I named it that on purpose. I said, because she kept saying when we were paying off debt, because I didn't have any sanity fund for us, so I'm going insane. So you would say, I'm going insane because I don't have any money to spend. Right? Remember, she's going from spending everything she wants to spending nothing. So I said, okay, cool. Jessica's sanity fund.
But that's how it
And now,
is.
and now, every month she gets a budget of the amount of money called Jessica's sanity fund.
That is good.
So let me ask you a question, Jessica,
No.
and just in all complete honesty. All right. So at the house, at night, when you two are back in the bedroom asleep, and you look over at him and he's just over there sleeping with a biggest smile on his face, does it ever cross your mind about getting a pillow and just putting it on his face?
So
Can we stop recording now? Can we
no, seriously, absolutely. I feel like that's why we needed counseling. I
Yeah.
feel like that's why we needed our therapist to have a different outlook on things. You know, that I wasn't going crazy and he wasn't going crazy,
Right.
or what I was saying may not translate immediately to, you know, how I'm saying it versus what she might say it and it may click because she said it a different way. And a different outlook. So absolutely. Multiple times. I was, oh my God. I was like, we'll push it to the next day. So, but yes,
So
absolutely.
you never woke up on a morning, Matt, and looked over at her and thought to yourself, why is she looking at me like that?
Yeah, I think I was looking back at her like that too, actually.
Okay. All right.
No. Jessica was making the eyes at him, and Matt was just looking at the budget. That's what it was. He never did see it.
Look at this one. Look at this overspender. What are you doing to me?
My God. So along your way, while you've been doing this over that 17-month period, did any obstacles come up, any unplanned obstacles, any setbacks? And if so, how did you handle those?
Car repairs, random doctor bills. God, I can't remember back now, which is crazy. But things like that popped up, right? And when it happened, we paused for a little month, and then we paid it off in cash, and then we went right back to it. But yeah, they popped up often. They popped up. Yeah.
Was that?
Actually, even IRS did for taxes.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. That popped up. You had to pay that off too.
You have to pay those off.
Hopefully, everybody else is listening. It takes our advice. Yes.
So, mentally and emotionally, you're making this headway on the $120,000 that you guys paid off. You're working down there, and then car repair comes up.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, how hard was it for you to shift from, okay, we're making work, now we got to go back and we got to take care of this. Was that hard? Did it get easier the more you did it?
I'll be honest with you, and I'll let Jessica take this one too. The entire journey was hard. It was tough. I mean, there was times, I think I talked to you about it before we got on the podcast a little bit, about when I was paying off this debt. I was working probably 90 to 100 hours a week for 17 months, right? So my full-time job, that Uber Eats and DoorDash on the side, right? And so I did it strategically. I think every Friday I had a half day at work, or 3 out of the 4 Fridays in the month I had a half day, right? So I get off work at 12 o'clock. I do Uber Eats from like 12 p.m. to like 11 p.m. at night or Friday. And Saturday, I get up at like 9 a.m. or 7 a.m., do it from like 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. to like 11 o'clock at night. Then Sunday, I would get up after church and probably do it from like 11 a.m. or 11:30 to like 9 o'clock at night. And then do it maybe Monday through Thursday from like 4:30 to like 8:30 at night. So I was working a lot, right? And that entire journey was tough. It was hard. But through that process, to help you understand that if I keep this intensity, and that's why I was excited when we put out the first day, because I'm like, I'm working like crazy. Right? So to see any movement is like, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's the reason why I think you're working 900 hours. I don't see her much, right? Or if I see her, it's like, hey, yep, I come home, she cooked for me, we eat a meal, we may talk for like an hour or so and go to sleep and do the same thing over again, right? So that process was grueling. It was hard. But being rooted in, okay, I know what I see is right for our family, don't lose focus, right? Keep your path looking ahead. And I'm trying to find the fun things, like listen to a podcast, right? I will listen to all podcasts, Dave Ramsey all the time, Anthony O'Neill all the time, right? But during that process, we were trying to feed each other, say, hey, you got this, keep on going. Right? Don't lose faith in the process, continue the journey, because we see the momentum, keep it going. But it was tough. It was very, very hard. Very, very hard. What about you, just?
I think the question that you were asking was when things came up, how did we handle it? Yeah. And so one of the things that I love Anthony. So one of the things that he expressed, and I think it came from the Ramsey show as well, is that while you get that, you have $1,000 emergency fund. So a lot of that unplanned circumstances were already covered. Because he had it. And then, we would always, refill the emergency budget so that we could, for other emergencies. So it really wasn't a heart attack whenever we had emergencies. It was more so we got this because we planned for it.
That's awesome.
So as we got out of debt, our emergency fund is a lot bigger now because we can handle it. But during the season in which we were trying to get out of debt, we did always had $1,000 set aside for emergencies.
It was crazy is too. I think when you get your 3 to 6 months emergency fund, like Dave talks about, you have less emergencies.
Yeah, Murphy's Law, right?
Because you can really cash flow it then, right? So to her point, right, the emergency fund is there, but once you get to that next step, it's like, oh, I don't even, yeah, sure, it's inconvenience. It's not really an emergency, it's inconvenience. Like why did I have to happen? Okay, cool, it happened, here you go. Right, this is part of the process.
Now, are you still doing the 80 to 90 hours?
Heck no. Oh, heck no. No. Heck no. I will cuss when I know this is the right policy. Heck no.
So,
Yeah.
while you were doing the 80 to 90 hours, what were you doing?
I was helping too. I wasn't doing as much as he was, but I was working as well as doing Instacart on the side and DoorDash as well. Just helping him out, because that's when I figured out, okay, I know what we're doing. I also didn't want to hear his mouth. So, okay. In some aspect. And so, yeah, I was doing that on the side too. I wasn't doing it as much as him, but I for sure was helping.
So it's a fair statement to say that your parents probably didn't say this out loud, but they said he won't let her go outside, and now he's got her working 8 hours.
He's a workaholic.
What's so crazy is that I would take my mom sometimes to DoorDash.
If you
And she was kind of, what are you doing? But she after a while, she stopped asking me why I was doing it and just started helping.
That's awesome.
I would take my little cousin, Trey, with me as well. We would help deliver groceries to apartments because, stairs. And so I would, he would help. And then eventually he, we just had conversations of, JJ, why are you doing this? And it's because, me and, Matt are trying to get out of debt. We have so much money that's built up and we're just trying to pay it off. And so I think having those conversations with family kind of helped it a lot. And then at the end, when we paid it off, they asked us for advice and then give them referrals, to our financial planners. And, and we're helping them in any way that we can. And so that's a beautiful thing.
So is this, you're expecting your first child? Well, how did you have time for this to happen?
Oh yeah, this is
This is that post this.
Okay, all right, okay, all right.
What time?
yeah. Yeah, post that.
Post it.
So that's I don't want to brush over this.
Yeah.
You were working 80 to 90 hours a week, working your full-time job, taking half days, sick days, holidays, stuff like that to do another job. You were doing the same thing, working your full-time job, leaving, going and doing Instacart and DoorDash. How did you guys do that? Because it's, people get debt and they're like, I only get paid this much at work. I'm never going to get this paid off.
Yeah.
And then they get into that pit of despair.
Yeah.
And you guys were working 2 full-time jobs every week to get it done. How did you do that?
I would say for me, it was all through, I would say, the power of Jesus Christ. There was times where I recollect times where I know it wasn't me, right? Like there was just times where I was dead tired, and something just was like keeping me going. I can't really tell you what it is, right? There were times I was probably at 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then work 12 hours, right? And I'm sitting there at 10 o'clock at night delivering orders. I'm like, how am I doing this? And I prayed, and then very next day, doing the same thing, right? So there was a bit, of course, I'm a hard worker, right? I'm known to be a hard worker, but it was a combination effort, right? My hard work and his grace on top of it. It was, to me, that was really the sign. I was like, hey, it's just not you, right? And there's been times like I said, there was many blessings that happened throughout this journey. I'm like, this is not just me. There's no way. Yeah. So I would say it's this combination of both, right? That grace and also my hard-nosed mentality, my conservative, stingy mentality. I think a combination of both, that's propelled us to keep going, for me at least.
So let me ask this question. Jessica, as a mom-to-be, if the baby was already here during this time frame in your life, how do you think you would have been able to participate in the extra hours put toward this challenge?
Oh, I'm gonna be honest. I probably wouldn't, but for people who are in this situation, I would say I have a very strong, when I say strong support system. I have a very strong village. They got my back during.
It's awesome.
So during this situation, if my baby was here, there would have to be some sacrifices on my end as a mom to say, hey, mom and dad, can you keep, my baby while, I do this, or we take care of this. Fortunately, we don't have to do that, so that we can spend more time, with our child whenever they're here, so that, like I said, it's just, I just have a very strong support system. I think that really matters. It's just finding, a village that really helps. And so that really helped us out on our journey, as well. Even though we couldn't go on trips, or we really couldn't, if I were to go on a trip, he wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if I couldn't, spend money at the time, I would still go over to my parents' house and they would still talk. And I just felt the exact same. And I just feel like having that village and that support system was very important to me during that time. And I think it will be, especially, when our child is here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's right. That's awesome.
How important, how crucial was it to y'all's success having each other's support? I remember you guys were saying that y'all sometimes you just get together and say, hey, I'm rooting for you. Yeah. How important was that?
You got to think, I'm working all those hours. I come home and probably tired. I probably don't want to make a meal, cook, right? And I come home and there'll be a meal on the stove, right? So even though she's may not be doing as much Uber Eats or DoorDash or Instacart, vice versa, she's making sure the house is taken care of, right? So cooking as much as she can, clothes, vice versa. So she may not be bringing extra income in the house, but she's bringing in, I call it intangible income, right? The things you really can't pay for that a wife does, or that a spouse does, right? It doesn't have to be a wife, could be a friend, support system, whatever, right? If you got a baby and you're trying to pay off debt, maybe your mom or your grandparents or a friend comes over and just makes a meal for you, right? Having that, it takes an extra stress off your plate, an extra worry away, to where now you can say, cool, I got that covered. Let's just focus on just doing this, right? Let's just pay off this debt. Let's work as much as I can because I know I got you helping out with the kid at home or helping with the meals. And that made a big difference, right? Big difference.
Good deal. Good deal. So along your journey, I know that Ramsey provides some tools. You mentioned a couple of them, every dollar and things like that. But were there any tools that you might have utilized to help you lay out your strategy for getting out of debt? And if so, can you share those?
Yeah, I would say every dollar was one of the big ones. I also had a spreadsheet where I said, okay, cool. If we pay this amount this month, here's where it gets us close to our goal faster.
All of that.
It helped, right? It helped. The vision.
You're a good man, Matt.
You know, I try. I try.
You're going to be very successful in life.
See, can you say it one more time? Say it loud.
You are going to be very successful in life.
Let me make sure that was stated.
In fact, Ryan, Jessica, y'all just be quiet the rest of the meeting. Right? Let Matt and I carry on this conversation.
Right? Real people are talking.
Yes, the grown-ups are talking, baby.
So I say every dollar helped. Having that budget and then having that spreadsheet were the biggest tools. And also, when it's doing like those independent contractor jobs like Instacart or Uber Eats, learn how to kind of, I don't want to say trick the system, but you learn how to work the system. In terms of knowing, hey, if I pay this amount to this and if I get this amount of order, for example, if I turn my app on right now, I know, okay, I can get probably $300 if I do it from now to 10 o'clock at night. So it's those like metrics you saw to kind of catch up on. But every dollar, I think, was the biggest one. I mean, just what do you think? Maybe another tool.
Yeah, I think the biggest one that actually clicked for me was every dollar. That's the one that I could visually see. I'm a visual person. I'm an educator by heart, and for some reason, I just need to look at it. And so when I'm looking at something and visually seeing, okay, this is how much money I have left over for the rest of the month, it clicks, it comprehends. I can comprehend a lot more.
Aside from those tools, did you guys listen to, any podcasts or audiobooks, anything like that? And if so,
Yeah, I can probably say the whole intro for Dave Ramsey show. Welcome to the Ramsey show, where what is it? Something about the car loan. Something's the status symbol. Paid off mortgages, the status symbol that replaces some type of car. I can't remember all of it now. But Ramsey show for sure. Anthony O'Neill we talked about. Big on faith, right? A lot of pastors, especially Darius Daniels. I love Change Church in Atlanta. Those I think were the biggest three, right? For sure. I really didn't listen to much music. It was educating myself while doing the work, right? And hearing other people's story. The cool part about the Ramsey show too, I think also I've heard some of you guys' podcasts, and I love you guys' podcasts as well. Hearing somebody else's testimonial kind of just pushes you. Says, okay, if they did it, I can do it too. Because they're no different than me, right? So hearing those testimonials while you're doing that, it's like, okay, cool. They paid off. I heard folks pay off like $300,000 within like 2 years. I'm like, oh crap, well, what is 120 to 300,000, right?
yes.
So I think hearing those testimonies helped push us or push me to go a little bit faster. I mean, what as far as
Yeah, so Anthony O'Neill,
Yeah.
I for sure follow him. Every episode that comes out, that he's just someone that I can really relate to. And also sermons from our pastor. We attend Elevation Church, and he actually had Dave Ramsey come and speak at our church as well. And so when it comes to sermon based, a lot of the times whenever we were going through getting out of debt, a lot of the sermons were geared towards debt or, tithing or finances. And I thought to myself, wow, this must be a sign. This must be a sign as to why this is happening. But, just listening to faith-based podcasts. I love to listen to music as well to kind of soothe myself. But definitely, I think for me, Anthony O'Neill was he's like a yeller. You know, he like digs it into you. He yells. He's like, well, what do you do? You know, I just love the way he talks because it really resonates with me.
The yelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we ride by your house,
No. It just kind of.
yells. No.
that's why you say it on the plan, because he yelled at you.
We're gonna follow this budget. We're paying all this money tomorrow.
He just has a stern voice. Like the voice is like, oh wow, I really gotta get my stuff together. You know.
You talking about Matt, or you talking about
Anthony O'Neill.
Okay, all right, yeah. I want to make sure.
Matthew's.
I want to add one thing too. I think the cool thing that happens is once you become a better steward of less, sometimes like I said, I'm big on faith, right? God then entrusts you with more, right? Right. So once he says, okay, I gave them this amount of debt, okay, they took care of that. They were being good stewards of it. Okay, let's now multiply their soil, right? And now you've been given more to manage, right? So during this process, there were times and months, right? I don't know if I told you, Ryan, I think I may have. It's a couple months where we wanted to pay a certain amount of student loans every month, right? There was 1 month, right, where we were going to be short by $100, right? So I prayed. I said, God, if it's in your will, please make this come to pass. We're short $100. I kid you not. Somebody from our church, who I did not tell about our story, sent us $100 in cash out. That very same month. The very next month, same thing happened again. We're short $100. Different person sends us $100. And just texts me, says, hey, I think something in my heart just says I need to send you this money. I'm like, okay. And I prayed the same prayer. I'm like, all right, this is more than just me. The third month, same thing happens again for $200. It's like different, $200, right? So all that to be said, right? You can do the work, but I'm big on faith. He will multiply your efforts. Once you're being a good steward, it's all right, I can trust this person. Let's bless them more, right? So I just want to add that in there because, like I said, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, but it's not just us, at all. Not just us at all.
Well, I think if I were to ask you what you felt would be the most important factor to your success, I'm going to make a presumptive statement, and I think it's going to be a diligent commitment to your strategy.
Yeah.
I think. But I guess what I would ask you, Matt and Jessica, what advice would you give to others who are looking to pay off their debt in the manner that you have?
Yeah.
What advice would you give?
You go first?
Patience. I think patience is something that I think we all need in life. I think we want to rush. We want things to happen when we want it to happen. And I think patience taught me that nothing happens when I want it to happen, for sure. Putting in work, having a good work ethic actually helped me as well. And I think, trusting in the Lord to know that, he has my back. He would never fail me. He hasn't failed me yet. Really, really helped. And also just wanted to add in that village part of it as well. Having that good support system behind you. And whenever times get tough, just going over their house, talking to them, making sure that, you're still okay mentally. It's good. It's good for the soul, for sure. So those would be my piece of advice.
Yeah, I would also add to, and I repeat on that same quote you just said, is you didn't go in debt overnight. So it's not going to get out of debt overnight. There's no magic wand to get you out of debt. It's going to be rough. It's going to be hard. You have to be patient enough through this process to know it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? I know a lot of folks talk about student loan forgiveness. Hopefully you have that. We didn't have that. That was not an option. So with that, we had to work it, right? And knowing that, hey, I did this, I accepted in my mentality, I accepted, yes, I'm going to pay for it. It's up to me to pay it back, right? So I would say that focus, that long-term focus, right, that sustained focus, discipline, and also say sacrifice, you said in the beginning, and contentment. Right? Knowing that, yes, I could have all this stuff. Right? If I get paid a bunch of money, I can spend all of it tomorrow. But instead of me spending all of it, how do I be a good steward of it? How do I say, okay, I got $1,000. Let me make sure I spend $950 or $975 if I can. And if I have to, right, have any debt, $50 goes now towards my debt, to where now I'm living below my means. So I would say those are the keys, right? It's, you got all the practical steps, but are you okay with what you have? Right? You don't always have to have more. Sometimes you have to be okay with what you have. Right?
So your ages, I'm sorry, Ryan, but your ages are
28.
28,
29.
28 and 29. Okay. So how long ago did y'all pay all this off?
This was when we were 25, 26.
5 and 26. So you've been debt free for that long?
Mhm.
All right. So here is the question that I want to present to you now that, because I was there, right? I know I don't look 60, but I was once that age. I know you're finding it hard to believe as she rubs her tummy. But so obviously, we live in a society of fast food. Order it now, get it now. And if it's you got to wait 3 minutes, you're not a happy camper. So you paid off things, and you've been living debt free for 3 or 4 years now. So you have developed a habit. How do you fend off the impulse buying?
Ooh. Jessica, you want to take this one? Drink some water real quick.
Oh, well, how do I feel? Okay, so I still struggle with it. To be honest with you, like if I'm hungry, I'll probably stop by the big Bojangles, and get me a little biscuit or so. But sometimes I can say that I've gotten more in tune with how I'm spending. So if someone once said, if it's on sale, it doesn't mean you always have to get it. And so I've learned that over the years that, when I make purchases, I do ask myself, do I absolutely need it today? Or do I actually need this right now? But if it's in my sanity fund and I want it and it's in my budget, I'll get it. But, I do question myself now a lot more than I did before. So a lot of questions like, do I absolutely need this right now? Can I get it next month? Or can I live without it? Can I use something else that's cheaper? So a lot of questions definitely before I make purchases.
All right. Well, let's run that past Bojangles, though. Let's go to, you got a significant cash flow going on now.
Yeah.
So why not go out and purchase the nice new shiny object?
Yeah, I think one thing that we've learned over time is that if you don't have the money for it, then don't buy it. So for example, because I'm with child and I'm about to have a baby, most people get a mom car, right? And so although we're saving up for a car, and we'll eventually need one, do we have the money for it right now? No, but we're saving up for it, and we will be able to afford it in cash. And that's the thing. We can't afford it. We can't afford it right now, but I think what we really want to do is pay for it in cash with no debt. And we want to, continue to live up to that standard, as, living debt free as well. And so just having that standard and saying, hey, we want to live in this, and I don't have to have a Bentley. I don't have to have a BMW or a Range Rover. I can just have a standard SUV that fits my family and I'll be okay. And so just living within my means is something that I actually had to learn, because, we live in a day and age where we see others and they're big balling or, but we don't know that
They're what?
they're big balling.
Big balling. Big.
Balling.
I know you can't believe I'm 61 years old. What is this big balling?
All right, I've missed something here.
Yeah.
Splurging on like
So
I think like what
they're
like
driving
my mom
luxury
would know,
cars.
like-
Yeah, they're
Nice clothes, nice cars.
Yes,
jewelry,
correct.
head to toe. Yep, you're always looking like you got more money than you might really have, or you.
And the kids often say nowadays dripped out.
Yes.
What?
Dripped out.
Drip
Dripped
out.
out.
That was real news.
Well, why don't we bring this back to the 20th century?
I think this was fun. Let's just keep doing it.
Yeah, this is, Lord have mercy. I was going someplace and wow, we got this uncomfortable moment, man, this program. So, all right, so we're nearing the end of this today. I have learned a new term,
Big ball.
big balling.
Big baller.
So incredible.
Balling out.
Anyway, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so I guess if I were to ask each one of you in this journey that you took, which by the way, I congratulate you on it because very few people have the intestinal fortitude to start it, much less finish it like you did. And I congratulate you on that. Whether you realize it or not, if you continue in your money management approach, the way you're doing it, you're going to have a significant lifestyle that is so much different than 99 of the people that's around you. So I would ask you, and I'm going to go with Jessica first, and then I'm going to ask you the same thing, Matt. What would you say would be the one definitive thing that you learned in this journey?
I don't know, man. I'd say, let me say this. I'd say, church. I think I have faith, but I think my faith grew. I would say faith. We talked about it. I grew up in church. I talked about faith, but really didn't know what faith meant. And so there's been several circumstances in which I had to use my faith, but I think I learned what it was through this journey and how to use it and how to trust in the Lord and understand who He is. And so, just joining Bible study groups or just being in the Word a little bit more really helped me. I think that was one thing that I was really taught is how to have faith because there was no one else to look to except for the Lord because He made this all possible for sure. So I would say how to use faith. I understand what it is. I knew what it is. I've heard it. I didn't know how to use it.
So when you were laying in bed beside Matt with the pillow in your hand, faith is what crossed your mind.
Man, listen. Glory to God. Glory to God.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I would say along those lines, especially in the Christian community, we say things like, I can do all things through Christ strengthens me. I really learned things. Like I said, times when we were tired. She probably wanted to suffocate me with a pillow, like we talked about. Through this process is realizing that, hey, His grace really is sufficient when you're going through those tough times, and He'll supply everything you need, right? So instead of looking at it in the Bible, right, seeing it as quotes and words, just really living it, seeing it come to fruition, that's the big thing, right? And I'd add one more thing to that. I'd say too is be okay with being different. Right?
Yeah.
Like I said, nobody around us was doing this. Nobody still is. I got maybe one person I know that goes to church is trying to do it, right? But nobody's doing it. So in this process, I don't want to say you feel lonely, but in some essence, it's like you have to be okay being on this journey alone with Him as He walks with you, right? And be okay knowing that nobody else can understand. Nobody else will be able to relate to you in this process. And that's okay because they'll understand after, right? So when now they're asking you, hey, how did you do this? How did you do that? Now you can walk them out. So that's the whole journey is about is, right? You get out of debt, you change your entire financial picture. Now I bring my family, my friends on as well. So now I change my entire family tree.
Outside looking in, people who are not in your situation yet, debt free, and they got, this debt that they think is insurmountable. What does your life look like now, being debt free, for those people
And, another question is, was it worth it? Doing everything you did? If y'all can answer that.
Yeah, so we just went on a cruise 3 weeks ago to Mexico, Belize, and Honduras. And we also got some trees cut out in our backyard. There was like 10 or so trees, massive.
Let you come out, Captain.
I tried.
He did let you come out, Captain?
Yes.
I cried you up.
Were you big balling?
Oh, we were big ballers.
So we went on the cruise, right?
Man.
Big balling. So went on the cruise, got some trees cut out in the backyard. Of course, have a baby on the way, right? Which comes with expenses. We've been able to kind of open up and enjoy things more. I think we've gone on 2 cruises in 2 years so far. For me, like I said, I didn't travel at all, right? So this is kind of very new for me, right? So traveling and 529s, right? So part of this process and journey, knowing how much student loans kind of hurt us, my goal is to help it help it to where nobody else has to go through the same thing, right? So I want to start a scholarship fund, right? When it's all said and done. And right now we have 4 529s, right? We have one for my little cousin-in-law, her little cousin, she spoke about, my niece, and my friend's two daughters, right? And you can't do that if you don't have that leverage in your finances. So now we're doing that as well. And of course, giving at our church as much as we can, and being able to now have more sanity fund, right, to what we had when we were going out of debt. So now we can kind of enjoy life a little bit more within our means while still investing and getting to the next step, which is paying out the house.
How far out are you guys paying?
I think our goal right now, we're looking at 3 or 4 years. 3 or 4 years having the house paid off.
Hey, I'm up on that.
Yeah. Jessica, you got anything for that?
Oh no, I'm right with you. So like more travel. We get to travel more. We get to bring in, a baby, just in a very happy environment. And so I appreciate that more. It's just a lot more freedom. Like when birthdays come about, we're like, no problem, let's go, let's do it. So
It's a good deal.
I got one other question, unless you got anything.
Nothing.
Okay. All right. So
I'm over here big balling.
this is the
Or am I dripping? What am I doing?
Both.
now.
Big balling and dripping.
Dripped out. Gotcha.
What
that means.
So for spaghetti, and ties dripping.
Well, good deal.
What was a single best piece of advice you each got from your father?
Ooh. I'm going to say my grandfather,
Oh,
who, like I said, is now 96. He paid off his house in 10 years.
golly.
And he has never been in debt for any car. He's always paid cash for cars. And I picked up on it when I was 10 years old. And he lives a very free lifestyle. Kind of does what he wants when he wants, how he wants, and doesn't have to answer anybody's calls if he doesn't want to. But his advice was, son, always have a money market account, right? Or some type of savings. Always be able to pay cash for cars if you can. And then also realize you don't have to spend as much as you make. Live within your means. Right? And I learned that when I was 10 years old. I didn't have any money, but he taught me that listening out. Yeah.
I just want to clarify the question. When you mean father, do you mean spiritual father or earthly father?
Either one.
Oh, okay. So I'll start with my earthly father. So my father, and it's so crazy, we just went to a father-daughter dinner, and one of the questions was similar. It was, what is the one piece of advice that you can appreciate from your dad? And I said, he always taught me the order of how to live. First was you go to school, get your education. And so that's where I met Matt. Then it was family. And then it was, so once you get, marriage and then you have a baby. And so that was the order in which he taught me. He instilled in me, and that may not be, consistent to this day in our modern world, but that was something that he instilled in me, and I think that's why I'm so successful now, in just like being consistent in that, and just knowing that that's what the Bible tells us to do. And I think with my spiritual father, Jesus Christ, I think, like I said, I think he's taught me patience. I was a very I need it now type of person because I grew up in a 2-parent household and I was very spoiled. So when I, went through this journey, a lot of that, went away and I had to work for it. I had to be patient. I had to, just make sure that I'm living within my means. So that would be something that I'd say really stuck with me.
Good. Good.
Well, guys, thank y'all so much for being on the podcast. This has been a blast. This was a good podcast. So thank you guys so much for again, this was Matthew and Jessica Spears. And this has been another episode of the My Father Said podcasts. I'm Ryan.
Hey, and I am big ballin' dripping Robert.
Let's go.
You got it.
And this is the Drippin' Father podcast.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Right, out of here.
The opinions voiced in this video are for general information only and are not specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance reference is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful.